Burgess and Bolton's weekly wrap-up.
Okay, so welcome everybody in the regions, the nation, and around the world to the first episode of Burgess and Bolton's weekly wrap-up. And what we're doing on this first episode really is just kind of giving you a bit of an intro on what myself and Ben, I'll introduce Ben shortly, I've got planned for these sessions. What we're hoping to do is run these every week, although we're not committing to running them every week because we are going to go on holiday and there will be Christmas. But we're going to try and run as many of these as possible. And really looking at the interesting news items from the week. We're also going to try and have some interviews with new thinkers, up-and-coming people from the industry, especially the London market. That's going to be our major focus, but we're going to try and get some external people as well, and really focus on the people that are actually doing the jobs and getting insights about how those jobs are changing, what the future is going to look like, and what perhaps not the roadmap, but what is the direction of travel and how we're going to get there, what are the obstacles we need to overcome, and just over time build up a picture of how that change is developing and what it means for different teams, underwriters, claims people, and things like that. So with that, I'll say hello to Ben. Hi Ben, how are you?
Hi Jeremy, I'm all right. I'm good. Yeah, end of the week, beautiful sunny week. Not quite so nice today, but it's been great. Yeah.
I'm wearing my Hawaiian shirt. I'm trying to bring the last 2 days weather with us over into this bank holiday weekend. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Right, Ben, I've got a surprise for you to kick things off. So I made this for us. You've not heard it yet, but here we go. What do you think of this for our jingle?
Burgess and Bolton's weekly wrap-up.
There we are, you see. I've been working hard on this.
That's good. We can only go up from here, I say.
Yeah, that's it. I'm sure there'll be more jingles as we go through.
Very good, that. No, it's good. It's good. It's good. It's impressive.
It's a start, isn't it? There we are. So what we're going to do is kind of run through some topics and some news items, and as I say, get some guests on. So I think the first shout out to the audience, whether you're watching live or on the replay, is do send us in your suggestions for people you'd like to see interviewed or have on as guests, and we'll try our best to get those people. So first topic of the session is so we need to always get through the admin. So I've got seconds away. Round one. What's bugging you, Ben, most about lockdown this week?
Okay, bandwidth.
Yeah.
Bandwidth, crappy kit, people not investing, very senior, rich people, wealthy people not investing in proper bandwidth, proper kit. The difference between having proper kit, proper bandwidth in the conversation on a Zoom or a whatever is enormous. And I get so fed up with having choppy chats with people. We're 8 weeks in now. We should have sorted this out.
Yeah.
You and I have invested, haven't we? Heavily.
And watch it all disappear.
Yeah, it is. But it's so annoying. And to say I've had probably 20 conversations this week, and I'd say about half of them were terrible. And then 2 or 3 that were just rock solid. And that's great. You can have a proper conversation. It's not a proper world at the moment, but just for now, that's what we need. Yeah. So get onto Amazon, buy the proper kit.
Buy some kit. Yeah, that's it. For me, it's the massive hair war that's going on in my head. There are 2 factions. There's the boldies and then there's the growies. And the boldies have managed to take over this patch at the top, and they're trying to expand out. At the same time, my hair is growing upwards at an exponential rate, and it's just gone mad this week. I think there is also a direct correlation between the weather and the rate at which your hair grows. I don't know if it's been scientifically proven, but this section of my hair just going. Whoop. I look like a scientist off Back to the Future. straight up.
It doesn't look too bad from here. Mine's ridiculous. And it's 8 weeks. It's now 8 weeks without a cut and nothing. And I did think of shaving it all off, but then my wife doesn't want me to do that. She says she likes it. It's lush and soft and luxuriant. So she's kind of all over it, which is an upside of the lockdown, I'd say. Yeah. Really.
That's worth it.
Yeah, but it's not a war. But I don't feel. I'd rather it was tidy and neat.
Yeah,
we were just doing it like we used to.
Definitely. Okay, let's move it on. So we've been looking at London market jargon a bit, and some of the Londonisms and terms we use, and we're coming up with new definitions for common London market terms. So I've got a couple to kick them off, but we're hoping that you guys in the audience will send them through either on the chat now or later on the email. So I'm just thinking about bordereau. So I think bordereau is the fine line at a drink party where one more drink will push you over the edge into drunkenness. That's the definition of bordereau. That's what I think. I also think binding authority is someone who's got a deep knowledge of string and knot.
Yeah, or a dominatrix.
Yes,
I think
binding authority. Yeah,
that's what I thought. I had one which is total loss, severe amnesia.
Yeah,
but I don't. The kind of semi-serious point about this is that actually I think now going forward we've got to get rid of a lot of this jargon. Because it's just a lot of it is just nonsense. It's words that it's other words used in London that are normal words, like cover holders, which is, it's only Lloyd's that uses that. Do we need to keep all this? Is my question.
Yeah, it's a good one. Any more word of the week, or is that enough? We've got plenty to go out of.
Treaty, a special dessert for kids.
I like that.
It's a great. This is a great way of I've realised a great way of remembering these things when I'm in meetings and I don't know what the hell people are talking about. It's a kind of Darren Brown approach to insurance, so I could remember these words.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So let's move things on. We're going to look at news now. And normally we're going to have a news section and then we're going to have a theme. But for this one, because we don't have a guest for our opening episode, I think we're going to combine the two things together. This week, I think we've decided that the main bit of news is around the London Matters report, which came out on Tuesday. And if anybody watched the live broadcast, well done. It was a bit of a difficult watch, but we've got the most sympathy for anyone who's trying to do anything live with various streams and broadcasting and all that kind of thing. So they did pretty well to get through that. But it's tough when that internet starts to drop and you can't.
They should have got the right kit, Jeremy. That was the thing. They didn't buy the right kit.
They should have got.
That's what I'm saying. They hadn't been to Amazon and got the more expensive stuff.
But there was some good stuff in that London Matters report. I mean, you've read it thoroughly, Ben. I've skimmed the top of it, but do you want to give us a bit of a praisey on the main points?
Yeah, it's a great report. I think it's really good. I mean, I actually think it looks good too. I think it actually looks great, which is half the battle with these reports. I know to my cost, we've done this. It can look very dry and very dull, and it just seems. I mean, one thing is it doesn't seem like God. It was that long ago that the first report came out, but it's been an age. So I'd say the first thing is, could we do this more often? The speed at which this report comes out is rather symptomatic of the speed of how this market changes and moves. So I'd like to see that come out more often. And, I'll talk about some of the trends in a minute, which are good. But this would be a more something we can use. It's really valuable to everybody in the market. I've used it. I know everybody does use those stats. And I really like the way they make the analytics teams made the graphs available. I chuck those over straight at my guys to start playing around with. And And actually, that's a good thing. So there's some really useful tools there, and I'd say more power to the elbow of LMG and Claire Lebec and the team there. I think that was really good, and and the PR comms thing behind it has been good as well. So it's good. It's a good report. Do you want me to talk a bit about the highlights and lowlights, if you like, of it?
Yeah,
what I think.
I think so. I think I'd just to add to that. Really, I do think it does look good. I think it's a shame they couldn't have had a live presentation to do it, but the situation is what the situation is, and I think there was some really interesting stuff around people and culture that we're going to come on to. So yeah, why don't you just give us a bit of a
Yeah, I suppose I agree with that, and I suppose it needs to become kind of more organically part of the market, that we're all using this stuff. I know why it happens, but I think we could, everybody is in support of the market and wants it to succeed, and we all want to be involved in that conversation. So I think it is those live presentations, but it's also how do you get it out to the people, as it were. Over the next few weeks, we'll ask people about those elements of it and what it all means.
Yeah.
So my quick take is that the numbers are interesting, and obviously they've held up well. Particularly in the specialty area, which shows something that I fundamentally believe is that there is a real, if you like, in the brand of London, if that's such a thing, that specialty appeal, that specialist risk stuff is not only valued conceptually, but it's valued because people have to make their way to the rather complex, still arcane market and do it. So that's great. If a market can modernise, that would say that it ought to clean up. Maybe that's exaggerating, but it ought to. That's good. Reinsurance is down, which shows that's really the what you'd expect. Globalising market consolidation. They've got to. London's got to watch that, but I think that's probably inevitably going to happen more and more. The chart, I don't know if you've got that chart, Jeremy, I chucked over to you earlier, but the consolidation numbers are, I think they're worth looking at, because that really tells you a lot about competition, and it says that we're getting fewer and fewer players, or we're going to get fewer players doing more. This chart, if people can actually read it, that would be great. Happy to send it on to people afterwards. But we did a quick comparison. It's not exactly like for like. We look at the top 15. London Matters looked at the top 10. But broadly speaking, our data shows exactly what London Matters is showing, is that you've got pretty substantial consolidation, more business going towards those bigger players, those bigger brands, and that has huge implications for the future. It's exactly what you'd expect to happen. Question now, is it going to speed up? I suspect it probably will. And then moving on to other things, I think the only trouble I have with numbers, and this market loves talking about numbers, is it's an outcome, and it's a historical outcome. Yeah. So of course the big thing about this is, well, this is a pre-COVID report. It's 2018. That feels like a lifetime ago in the current global environment. So you've got to sort of think of that, which is not a criticism, but it is what it is. So looking forward, what are the forward indicators, as the commentators always say, and what I'd call the success factors, the drivers? Well, I think some of those are quite worrying, and rightly Claire Lebec drew attention to those. The numbers on diversity first, they're terrible, actually. They're rotten. And they might worsen after COVID, because a lot of women will have to be working at home, and all that stuff. So it's an urgent issue, I think, for the market to address, and primarily because we've got to attract, the market has to attract this different fit for purpose talent in the future. Yeah. There's a big transformation coming. We're all talking digital, but we're talking digital as if that's just a technological change. It is definitely not just a technology change. It's all about the people. And I don't think the market's ready for that. I don't think it's prepared for that. I think it's got to start preparing and doing something about it. The turnover issue, all the old lags retiring, lucky sods, I'd say, but they are going, and it takes out a lot of experience, at the market. And I think you really kind of need to manage how that happens and that turnover and that shift and that change, because you can lose a lot of good people, a lot of good experience at the same time as you're trying to fill the hopper up at the other end, if you like, of all the talent and the ambitious youngsters. PPL was good news, I think, generally. I mean, it's got its it certainly had its critics. It's not my view, the best system in the world, but it's worked. It's stood up. I think there's a lot beyond that now to think about, which I know that is starting to happen. But I've got to say, risk exchange should be a top priority now. That should not be slowed down. I don't know. I get a few sort of senses that Lloyds is maybe not going to move as fast because of COVID. I think they should move faster, actually.
Yeah.
And so my thing is get on with it. Transfer. You've got to. This volume stuff has to be dealt with differently. It's hampering in terms of people's time and all of that. And I know there was some kind of productivity figures in there that looked good, but the productivities were measured against banking, and banking is in a shocking state at the moment. So I'm not sure that would be my comparison, although I know insurance loves to do banking in, so that's fine. But
I think just like that as well, that there was a couple of weeks ago, the interview with John Neal, where he did say on that they were using this period to kind of reflect on the foul and what they were doing. And I took that first. I thought, oh, that's good. They're going to reflect, and perhaps they're going to push it forward or rethink some of the stuff. And as you were just talking about there, but then I just thought, well, maybe they're reflecting and thinking, is this right? Or and actually using it as a time to not push on, but just I don't know, just rethink and actually just go back.
Yeah, well, you see that, and that's partly my issue, is because a really good business book I've been reading recently, and it's an old one. It's called Ready, Fire, Aim. In other words, get out there and take action. Don't spend your time planning, reflecting, as he said. I don't think they should be reflecting. I think they should be getting on with it. I know the technology's out there, and they just have to select it and choose it. The big task will be to manage the people, and that's the key thing. And manage the change and the transformation. That's a huge task. I mean, the technology in some ways at the moment, I think, is quite simple, and this has shown it. PPL was fine. It worked, and so did all the other stuff we've used around it. So, get on with it, I'd say. Yeah. The other, I think the numbers of people 5,000 down or whatever, that's a trend. It's not a good trend, but it's a continuing trend. It doesn't surprise me at all. Sadly, I think we're going to have a lot less people in the market, but better people. And that in there lies all of that stuff I've just talked about the workforce of the future. One of the things we're going to be talking about, unashamed plug, is the underwriter survey that we're doing and we're about to do. And we'll share some of the thinking around that and why we've done a report with Lloyds, which is very interesting, which is coming out shortly. But that's really about everybody, starting to think about what are the characteristics and the behaviours, not just the outcomes, the numbers of successful people in this market, because that's what's going to be key. So a lot of people say, oh, the technology saved us. PPL saved us. Well, it didn't really. People saved us through this so far. So that's worth remembering, I think. Yeah. My final point, and probably the biggest point of all, is Lloyd's proposition, and it does relate to the numbers. 60% of the businesses in the London market do less than 20% of their business here, right? They are global businesses. They are looking around this whole world, and Lloyd's and London is a small place for them. It's a minority of their business. Yeah. So, and I've asked this question before, and I continue to ask it: what is Lloyd's proposition? What is London's proposition? I'd like to be clearer about that. It's unique. The London market. There's no other kind of sector that takes the city or a destination as its thing. You have the investment banking in New York, but you don't have the New York investment banking market. This is a different proposition. It's a notion that's really important. Yeah. So when we started 20 years ago, when Lloyd's came and said, would you start looking at surveys, which they did, their rationale then was that we need to understand, how does the Lloyd's brand play in relation to all of the syndicates? or the managing agents, as they're called still. And I actually think they should revisit that. And I think that should be the thing, is to say, what is our relationship, true relationship with these businesses? Now, whether that be an AIG, a Munich Re, or an Aegis, or, you know, whatever it is, what types of business, they all need to have this very clear idea of what this relationship is going forward with this Lloyd's London proposition. Because, you know, I'm never very clear about what that is. You know, the London market, I couldn't explain it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I think we need to be thinking about. So those are kind of my main takes. Stuff has to happen as a result of that report. You know, it's not just, there's no point in just as you suggested, reflecting on it being interesting. There's been too much of that in this market.
Yeah, and I think by fluke, it's kind of played into what we've been talking about for the last couple of months, and what this whole wrap up is all about. And that's the kind of the people side, the organizational cultures, the strategy that those things need to get behind, and how do you implement that, and what do the operations look like to underpin it and enable it. And I think what I'm hoping for in these shows is that we can get an insight from the people that are actually doing it, to see, firstly, is there movement on the ground on some of these big issues that are put out in the big reports, and if there is, what does it look like? What's the direction of travel? And is it enough? Is it moving fast enough? Do they, you know, it's more about how they feel about it than the facts and the figures and the numbers. I'd suggest. I think it'd be really interesting to get an insight from those people about how their roles are changing and what they would like to see change, but also how they feel about it.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. You know, I think it's, you know, I'm always struck when I do interviews with people, and I've done quite a few this week. We're doing a project with talking to underwriters about the distribution and chance. And these are talented people, right? These are really good, smart, savvy people that we're talking to. But most of their days currently are taken up with doing loads of admin, you know, compliance, regulatory work, all that sort of stuff. You know, to me, that productivity figure in this report, I just think that, fine, if you want to compare it with some other sector and say we've won that game, but we definitely haven't. This is not a productive market. It could be so much better, and it's got so much existing talent. But I don't think people are looking at that talent and trying to really evaluate what it is properly. I think they're beginning to, but I think, you know, we've still got this jargon thing is important, because we just got claims, and we've got underwriters, and we've got brokers, and some of them are called placing, and some of them, that doesn't tell you anything at all about the real nature of this market. So I'm really looking forward to speaking to people about that and getting under the skin of what jobs are. Because if we can understand what those jobs are, then we can communicate that to people coming into the market. I mean, it'd be hard to describe some of the jobs now, and there's lots of different jobs. Obviously, it's a diverse, it's diverse in terms of the types of jobs, and we've got to get people to understand that. You know.
Yeah. So that segues nicely into our first guest next week, who confirmed this morning. It's Emmanuel Connolelli, who's the head of project management office at BMS Group. He spoke at the TINTEC London Market Conference, in February, and he heads up the innovation labs at BMS, and I think formerly he was at Marsh. So he's kind of at the cutting edge of kind of leveraging tech to change how they work. So I think it would be really interesting to ask him some of these questions and see how he feels about change going forward. So that's Emmanuel next week. So we'll be spending a bit of time talking to him and getting insight about what he's up to and what they're doing. Anything else, Ben, that came out of the London matters for you? Or was that just about cover it all?
I think, the only thing is I want to know, I'd like to know more about the actions and what they're going to take. There's a as I say, I think there is a need for action, and the report, I think, needs to move on into being more than just I'm not sure that it is only that, but more than a government lobbying thing. I think it's great the minister's on there, and that's great for the market. Let's take that and then now say, okay, so what are the implementation, if you like? What are the massive actions we need to take, and how do we take them, and what do we do? So it's a need for leadership, really. I think it needs not just the great and the good, but it needs people to be standing up and saying, okay, because of this shift over to digitalization, this is what we have to look at. There are some simple things that need to be said, and I think at the moment, for me, we're just a bit too, keep coming back to that word, reflective. We're really responding to looking at some of these numbers passively, whereas in other sectors, they'd say this is a wake-up call. We've got to get on with things. We've got to move forward. In insurance, of course, we all sit around saying, how interesting and jolly good that we've achieved so much. And there's a bit of complacency, but let's move on. Let's get some stuff done. I'd really like to see that.
Yeah, I think couldn't agree more with that. Okay, so let's move it on. So the last item for today, it's a bit of a short show because we have our guests, because it's the first one. So we're just setting the scene for how it's going to run over the next few weeks. So last orders, I suppose. Ben, what are you doing this weekend? Anything good?
Yeah, I've got an exciting bank holiday Monday because I'm going fishing.
Oh, excellent.
Fishing in lockdown.
Yeah.
I've read the rules. I've got my hand gel sanitizer. I've got to disinfect shrubs and trees and anything I touch on the way to the fishing venue. And I'm also going to take the kids. It'll probably annoy all the other people who have to be 15 meters away from us. My kids are a bit older, so it should be fine. But yeah, that's me. What are you up to?
I've got a quiet weekend. It's obviously bank holiday weekend. Nothing much really. I've got to go to Rome because I've got an audience with the Pope. But
obviously.
Apart from that, got nothing really on. But
I'll tell you what I am thinking about, a bit more jargon. I'm thinking about. Have you heard the phrase "jobby moon"?
No.
It's new to you, isn't it? You see, because you're not up with the latest trends.
No.
So you imagine honeymoon.
Yes.
That's one thing. Yeah. This is a jobby moon.
Okay.
It's a holiday. It's a holiday, but it's a holiday that you take in between one job and the next job. It's a pretty unfortunate description.
Yes.
Really, pretty disgusting, isn't it? Actually, but. I think it's the sort of thing we should be thinking about in COVID, is that we take between this moment and the next, you take a bit of time to reflect on the future, and between when you're on the cusp of a sort of life-changing event. I mean, there are all sorts of moons that you can have. I'm educating you here, obviously.
Yeah, you are. It's all good.
Because you're probably back in the bizcation days, aren't you, where you mix. You remember that bizcations? You mix a bit of business with pleasure when you go away.
That's it.
That's completely out now. It's all about the moon event. So I think you could do a baby moon as well.
Yeah.
That's when you've just if you've had a baby and you've realised that is it for the rest of your life. You could take a quick break and leave the baby with somebody and go on a baby moon.
Yeah, that'd be all right.
I think a jobby moon's all right.
Jobby moon is, that is pretty standard once it's explained. Oh dear. Right, I think I'm going to leave that there. Thanks everyone for joining us. Do join next week, where, as I say, we're going to have an interview with Emmanuel, getting insight into what they're doing. With that,
it'd be good.
Enjoy your weekend, Ben. I've got a kids cheer for you. And I'll play you out on our jingle.
Goodbye, everybody. Stay well.
Bye-bye.
See you next week. Cheers. Bye.
Burgess and Bolton's weekly wrap up.